Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4! And today spawning southwest corner of the map playing in orange. We've got beastyqt playing as the Delhi Sultanate. And battling against him today spawning in the northeast playing in green. We've got David Kim, also known as Puppypaw, playing as the English. Welcome everyone to Gorge. As always, hope you guys are having a great morning, good afternoon or good evening. An interesting start actually for David Kim, Puppypaw. He's gone for 3 farms in the Dark Age. Now we have seen this a few times for the English. That allows them to keep the scout out and about for a very long time. Pick up as many sheep as possible, but also allows the food income to be very, very smooth as the game goes on. On the other side of things, we've got the berries being picked by the Delhi Sultanate, as you'd expect. Of course, the Delhi Sultanate, one of few civilizations that get a berry bonus, if you will. An increased amount of berries on these bushes now that the mill has been built. But overall, an interesting matchup. 2 civilizations that do have the potential to be rather aggressive. You've got the Delhi Sultanate, that with a particular upgrade called Efficient Production, can actually make units very, very quickly. And, well, that's the main thing really. Make units really, really quickly and put some pressure on the enemy. On the other side of things, the English can also go for a bit of a feudal age pressure. Often with longbows, it's often a potential for them, the council hall, although more recently, we have been seeing a lot of play with the Abbey of the Kings. Remains to be seen what Puppypaw decides to go for today. Plenty of farms, in fact. Usually we just see a handful, but it's gone for a lot. So this suggests that it's actually going to be a rather heavy feudal age presence. We'll see what he decides to really go for. I mean, with food incoming, could it be man-at-arms, maybe some horsemen? We'll have to see which production building he goes for. Either way, on the other side of the map, pretty standard opening here for the Delhi, probably expecting to see a stable. Often they do open with Ghazi Raiders. It will be the Dome of the Faith for the landmark for Beastie. Now with the early investment into farms, no real exposure to what the plan is here for Puppypaw. Because, of course, getting the wood for these farms is not as expensive for other civilizations, but it's still a cost involved, and so it delays the tech up to the next stage somewhat. But as we say, the smoothness of the food income will be there for the English as time goes on. The farming transition already underway. Now this is... wait a minute. This is strange. So we'd often see villagers going to wood here for the Delhi so that they can afford a production building. And indeed they have gone on to wood, but we wouldn't usually expect them to see them go for a mining camp on stone. So curiously, could be expecting a second town centre Delhi play, which is something we very rarely see because they're a civilization that thrives on just one, being aggressive in their tempo in the early game, looking to get sacred sites, but of course the second town centre will slow them down a bit. It will give them a very nice economy. Curious to see how things work on the other side of the map with what's seeming to be some early aggression based on the build so far for Puppypaw. Here we go, it's going to be the Abbey of Kings here for the English. We'll see the king out and about before too long. It's a good unit because of course there's only one way to get the king, and that is with the Abbey of the Kings. It's a sort of a mobile healing unit for the English and could come in handy. We see all the upgrades already queued up here for Beastie. Completely free of course for the Delhi. They have no cost attached to their research. But of course it is time barred behind how many scholars you have. And that's going to be increasing the number of scholars of course with the Dome of the Faith. The landmark geared up to increasing the scholar count. Makes them cheaper by quite a margin. Alright, so it's going to be barracks here. Now, we could see maybe a stable added in as well. Maybe horsemen with spearmen. Be a bit of an awkward one though. Especially considering the Delhi Sultanate should be able to produce very quickly in comparison. So we might see man-at-arms, but this is equally as awkward because the Delhi Sultanate nearly always go for Ghazi Raiders. And Ghazi Raiders actually have a +2 bonus damage against heavily armoured units, of which the Vanguard man-at-arms are indeed. They are high armored units. And it's a double barracks. Oh, we've not seen this in a long time. It could be a flood of man-at-arms coming in from puppypaw. Love to see these sort of strategies, especially seeing as we have not seen it for quite some time. A second TC going in a rather forward position, going on the berries, which could be exposed and in a risky spot. I'm not so sure the Vanguard man-at-arms will get there quick enough to deny it. I'm not sure really puppypaw knows about it just yet, although Scout will run into it now. So we will know about it now. You can see the immediate redirection for the man-at-arms to go here, but with only one there, really, another one on the way, it's probably not going to deny it. Without Iron Undermesh, the Vanguard man-at-arms, they don't do too well against town centre fire, although we might get a couple of hits in. Scholar coming out already preemptively, just to heal up the villagers, so we won't even risk it here, Beastie. It does send the Scholar back now. That the man-at-arms going around on the left side on the gold vein, looking to get an outpost there, probably ideal to defend the gold position. Now this is interesting, right, because you've got a two town centre play from the Delhi, which is not really expected from them. You've got like a weird feudal age rush with the man-at-arms, with the double barracks for the English, so really quite, not all-in play, I say. It's difficult to say all-in because it's got farms, so it's a heavy investment for sure. So whilst you usually see the Delhi being aggressive, it's actually the English in this matchup. And it's going to be down to Beastie to try and make sure he survives. It's going to be an interesting battle for sure, because the second town centre, not only is it an initial investment, of course food is ploughed into making more villagers, so that means less food for army in the short term. Of course in the long term that economy will pay itself back. That's something that puppypaw needs to be careful about, right? He wants to do some damage quickly if he can. Now despite not having Iron Undermesh, this is still tanking quite a few shots. Benefit of being so aggressive on the map as well is that puppypaw, whilst it does have the farming transition, can also get deer freely on the map without being too concerned about being raided. There's the first stable, almost at 8 minutes, would you believe? No military production here at all for Beastie, up until the 8th minute. And you can see the Scholar already getting in position, ready to garrison inside, to take full advantage of efficient production. You can see the 1 out of 1 there. That means this production building will be producing quick time, as the guards readies are now queued up. They only take 13 seconds to train. As we said earlier, they do have the +2 damage bonus against heavily armoured units. This is the benefit of the mobile healing unit, the King. Man-at-arms surrounding him and healing on up. Looks like puppypaw, and rightly so, going to target the second town centre. It's relatively weak, only 2,500 HP. It's certainly a lot lower compared to the main town centre, which is a whopping 7,000. So it's a good chance that this goes down, which then actually nullifies the initial investment that Beastie's gone for. As the Guards Raiders are trying to chase down the King. Guards Raiders incidentally do move faster than the King, so they should be able to chase it down. One of the man-at-arms goes down. And yeah, I mean, he's pumping, right? Puppypaw doesn't really have enough for a barracks, blacksmith rather, and Iron Undermesh. Well, in fact, there it is actually. Just as I say it, he queues it up. Understandably so, because he wants to dive underneath the town centres, but problematic situation with the Guards Raider count rising. Maybe he needs to add in a couple of spearmen here, puppypaw. That will help against the fight against the Ghazi Raiders. But in the meantime, there's not a single villager kill, and so Beastie will be happy in the sense that he's got a villager lead already established, and that's just going to keep growing and growing. Now there could come a pivot point here for puppypaw when he thinks about going to the Castle Age. Go to the Castle Age, he's got a couple of options. Could go for the White Tower as a defensive landmark, could potentially go for the King's Palace. Gives them essentially another town centre to match what the Delhi are achieving here with their second town centre. Oh, Beastie will want to take that fight if he can. Just numbers wise, he said would win it. Iron Undermesh is already in. No blacksmith here for the Delhi just yet. Oh, I say that. Yeah, there it is. Of course there is. It's going for Steeled Arrow, which is an interesting choice. So we don't see any archery rangers just yet. Oh, there is. There's the foundation. I'm just about like 2 seconds delayed in my call-outs here. But he's half thinking about going for the torches against the town centre, half thinking about the fights. Now, bear in mind, we talked about the King for the English being able to heal up the units. The King, unfortunately, did die earlier, I think. Either way, he's not in this position here, healing the units. We see the Scholars incidentally having a similar sort of function for the Delhi. being able to heal on up. You see BC leveraging that here on the left of your screen right now. Looks like the town setup might go down. I think he's kind of really quite committed to this now. BC trying to delay it for as long as possible. Now BC could potentially get the villagers out to repair. Just again delay things a little bit. Yeah, there we go. The villagers come out, and because these are melee units, it's hard for them to really hit these villagers. As the torches are now out once again. The heals from the scholars is going to be working out really well. King comes in for the English as well now to kind of compensate. Villagers just decide to abandon ship here. So BC will be giving up the second town center, but it's already developed a very healthy 9-villager lead, which is not too shabby at all. One thing to consider though, we talked about the smoothness of the farming transition for the English that will be coming in. The Delhi, not so much. It's going to be difficult for him to get berries, although as I said that he is here in the south. Of course the man-at-arms aren't the most mobile unit, so he's still got a potential to take food off the map. But eventually he will likely to need some farms as well here, Beastie, and that could pose problems. As whilst he's investing wood into food, of course the farm's costing him the wood, it leaves him a little bit exposed in terms of unit production, and so puppypaw might have a window of opportunity just to outproduce his enemy. Good movement with the Ghazi Raiders though. We talked about freedom of taking food on the map. Now that there are Ghazi Raiders, well, they're putting their names to the test. They are certainly looking to raid as much as they can. And Beastie's killed 2 villagers already to equalise the damage done on that front. 2 spearmen though, just going to trade it out. Beastie will kill those 2 spearmen and probably not lose any other Ghazi Raiders, at least to these 2 spearmen. He micros the weak ones away. But it's coming out again. Yeah, there are 2 more spearmen, so I don't think Beastie really wants to engage this. We could potentially win the fight, but there's a decent chance he'll lose a lot of the Ghazi Raiders because they're pretty weak now. So puppypaw decided to head back home. Going for fitted leatherwork and melee armor coming on in. This is good work by Beastie because forces puppypaw to always keep some military units at home in exposed areas. There's here only 1 early man-at-arms, so I think he'd be quite happy to take the fight here, Beastie. In fact, he's going to go straight for the villagers. Decides to back off though because a couple of more of those vanguard man-at-arms are on the way. More importantly, buying time here, Beastie. Oh, villagers were spotted. Yeah, he's going to spot this, so it's going to cause quite a bit of idle time at least. He may not kill anything, but idle time being caused. Guys are going to dive on in. There's a good few healthy spearmen in there, so I don't want to dive in too close, but he's going to be picking all those picking them off if he can with his archers. Although he's really separating the spearmen away. Man-at-arms will be good at dealing with the archers, not so much against the Ghazi Raiders. Especially with the scholars in behind healing on up. This is looking a bit tricky now here for puppypaw. It looks like the economy is really starting to kick in for Beastie. This is the concern that you always have with this strategy. One thing to bear in mind though, looking at the resources in the bank, puppypaw seemingly looking to go to the castle age. It's going to be very telling on the strategy what he goes for. 2 very different type of landmarks, right? The White Tower, which is defensive but can also make units. It's quite nice for the castle age as a power spike. And then you've got the King's Palace to try and bolster up the economy. But this is a great fight for Beastie. In the choke point, allows the archers to do their work. Minimal contact area for the melee units. The Ghazi Raiders tanking, of course, with a number of scholars behind as well, really aiding this fight. Really just back onto the food again on the berries. And this is a great fight here for Beastie. This is a problem situation for puppypaw. In many ways, could be the spiral in the game that allows Beastie to take a hold of the game. Because losing the army here is very tricky. When you age up to the next age, you're relatively in a weaker spot because you've just invested a lot of resources into doing so. And there's no standing army here for puppypaw to defend himself with if Beastie does decide to go on a full aggressive mode. Bear in mind as well, we talked about the ability to make units with the resources. Well, that's going to diminish a little bit because the food income needs to be higher here for puppypaw to fund the second town centre. Bear in mind, the Delhi are on 1. So all the food, just be funding 1 town centre and military units afterwards. The group of man-at-arms are surrounded. They'll be taken apart. Some good micro BC should be able to save some of these Ghazi Raiders. Decides to not really focus on that, focusing on other things it seems. He's focusing on picking up the relics or getting in position for the relics. Interesting play. That's often what you do with the Delhi when you're itching towards the castle stage. Just get your scholars in position so when you do get to the castle stage, you just swipe up those relics. Quick time. But puppypaw still has units on the field. Pushing some of these scholars back. Going back to the food sources once again. And also don't forget professional scouts is in play for the Delhi. Of course, they get all the technologies for free, so, you know, you're always going to get it. Or she just walks past there without doing damage to the villagers. Interestingly now, Beasty's looking to wall up on the left side, looking to get the sacred sites. Now that's always a potential win condition for them, right? Because you know, the Delhi do orientate themselves towards sacred sites. Beasty not letting up on that front, already captured one. Possibly looking to play for the middle as well. Go for the House of Learning, placing it very close to the town centre, making sure it's not at risk of being harassed. Let's get to the next stage relatively quickly. The question is whether the English can take advantage of being to the next stage a little bit quicker by getting those monks out and getting the relics in. I certainly would like to get that advantage early on if he can, as the second ranged armor comes on in for him. But the Delhi aren't, you know, they weren't too far away, and don't forget, he doesn't have to build a monastery. He's already got his mosque up and running, and he's already got scholars on the field, so I'm going to be surprised to see them move out soon to try and grab some of those relics. A couple of spearmen here for puppypaw just to deny the professional scouts as much as possible. There's the King's Palace placed near the wood line, so that will be helpful to fund the farms he's no doubt going to want to get. Speaking of which, that's a massive farm transition around the back. But you can see the miniature numbers just not looking great here for puppypaw. That'll take some time to really build up again. Just that fight that he took earlier on really went well for Beastie. Yep, consolidated army moving down in the southeast. Just make sure it gets the relics safely. Picked up 2 so far. These ones being behind the wall as well. Oh, that's kind of not picked up just yet. Very low on health, by the way. The king might snipe it. Yeah, will do. Nice pick up there by puppypaw to recognise that. But there's a third one on the way in terms of relics. So you probably expect the Delhi to get 4 relics, which is pretty impressive. As walls come up here on the north side for puppypaw, just to limit the amount of raiding that can be done. Yeah, 1 relic already deposited here for Beastie. 2 more on the way. So with the second town centre effectively in the form of the King's Palace, he's caught up in the villager count at least. The big concern now is the miniature that's on the field here for the Delhi. And more importantly, the big war elephant. It's a really big tanking unit. 850 HP with the scholars behind healing. It has really good survivability. Very difficult for enemy to take down. Especially with melee units. It's not a comfortable unit to have. Probably crossbows, of course, would be ideal choice. Now the king will die because the Ghazi Raiders are just, you know, they're just faster. So they can obviously catch up to him. Speaking of catching up, we'd like to catch up and say a very big thank you for everyone who's been supporting the channel, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube. You guys are absolute legends. Special shout out, of course, as always, to the YouTube channel members and the Twitch subscribers. Thank you. And puppypaw is not happy about the wall. He's going to break on through. Second sacred site. Well, actually, this was decapped earlier on, but it's going to be capping him once again. It's a central one to fight for, I guess. He's going to narrow the map. There's another war elephant is on the field, and I think it looks like Beastie is on full production mode. Well, I say that, he's probably halted production because it looks like he's actually going for the Imperial Age. Looking at how much food and gold he's got in the bank. That's going to be very dangerous because the Delhi, I'd say, are an incredibly strong, powerful civilization in the Imperial Age, courtesy of the Hisar Academy. Get free elephants. What's there not to like about that, really? Free units, free elephants, more importantly. The Ghazi Raid is just holding the English back, which is exactly what he wants to do, right? He wants to play the tech up route, so he keeps the English at home, means he can tech up safely. Bear in mind, the English army is not particularly mobile here, with the form of infantry, man-at-arms and spearmen. So being back at home here is a bit of a problem. This is certainly a bit of a problem. I don't think those walls go up in time. Guys really should deny it, and yet this is a lot of villages that are just about to die. This is an absolute disaster for puppypaw. Having been so aggressive in the early stages of this game, is now suffering to the raids of the Ghazi Raiders. A handful of villagers are managing to get away from this, it seems. And many times we'll deal with this. The customary distraction Wallalow coming out for Beastie. I've seen him do it time and time again. He's actually already picked up 4 relics. The other one's on the way, so we're going to get a full 5 relic haul here for Beastie. With the walls down in the middle, looks like he's very well under control with this game. The question you have to ask yourself is, where does puppypaw go from here? Because he's going to be up against an Imperial Age Delhi Sultanate, and he's nowhere near the Imperial Age himself. He's got a tough decision to make. Does he look to be aggressive? But he's got a weaker army already in the castle age. He's going to have to maybe string this game out a little bit. As much as he can at least, but he's full production. He might stop that once he sees his enemy in the Imperial Age. He might try to go to the Imperial Age himself. His income is not terrible, but it's not really where he wants it to be. I think if he goes to the Imperial Age, it's probably got to be the Berkshire Palace, because he's going to be under pressure before too long, that's for sure. They keep going up, going to be able to get village fortresses, which means the keeps will act as town centres for the Delhi. Look to scale the economy that way, but the big thing, of course, is the landmark that he's chosen to go up with. And it was the Hisar Academy, so we have to get elephants from that as he's looking to take the fight. I mean, the longbows will be okay to deal with the crossbows, but not so much against the elephant. And it feels like actually puppypaw doesn't really have a counter unit against the elephant. That's a problem, because the elephant will just charge this down. He's going to need to make a switch over to crossbows, maybe spearmen. But the trample damage that comes out from the elephants can be devastating even against spearmen. All the technologies queued up. That's one other reason why you want to go for a relatively faster Imperial Age with the Delhi Sultanate. The earlier you get there, the earlier you can press those eco-tech buttons to get those Imperial Age techs quicker. Well, quite a few villages are stuck on stone though, but again, not the most mobile units, so maybe... Oh, there's longbows though. So range units could pose a problem for all these villagers. Oh, he's just missed out. Puppypaw, he's going south. Oh, that's so unlucky. He's going to sacrifice a few villagers here, Beastie, but this is the bigger prize for sure. And with the keep now being built, if he gets that up, it will be great for Beastie. Oh, he's going back now. That was unfortunate there for Puppypaw. Just they didn't quite keep moving on. Go for some stone walls on the left just to make sure the farms are safe for Beastie. Been a quiet patch here because, yeah, he's decided to go for the Wingard Palace instead, actually. Okay, interesting choice. Of course, you should be able to make units pretty quickly with this, which is something you want to do, but I am a bit conscious of the fact that on the Delhi are looking in a good spot to push soon. 4 war elephants, quite a few of everything else, and well, these units are elite, upgraded already, of course. And it will take some time for the Wingard Palace to be built, and then it will take some time for the upgrades to come on through, so kind of curious to see how aggressive Beastie will be once he sees Puppypaw get to the next stage. Looks like he can't necessarily be too aggressive because unit numbers aren't looking spectacular, but the unit types and the quality of them, it definitely is looking spectacular. We see the first of what could be many Sultan's Elite Tower Elephant. Quite a few villages on stone here on the south. Just feels like Puppypaw isn't being decisive about which resources he wants to target and attack. He was here on the left side, but never really went to the gold. Kind of leaned towards the south here, but again, never really went to the stone. Kind of just hovering in the middle of the map. Maybe they can just keep the army safe. It's understandable as well because you don't really want to move your army too far into a position where they can't retreat from, because then you're stuck. You just don't have the mobility to get out of a sticky situation. Speaking about sticky situations, this is certainly a sticky situation for Puppypaw. Using a handful of villagers for sure. Throwaway units, these crossbows, but doing a lot of damage. Getting good value for them. If he does go to this left side anyway, it's going to be walking straight into a keep, which is now producing villagers. So whilst the King's Palace is working hard for the English, well, actually, technically, Beastie, with 2 keeps and the town centre, is ahead on villager production rate, at least. Not ahead on, of course, the total villager count. As Puppypaw looking to take care of the situation here on the left side, at least in terms of gathering of those villagers. But he can't push without taking the keep down. At least in the skull position. Speaking of pushes, that is looking to be potentially a bit of a death push with these elephants. Not a lot that are countering it, right? Curious choice, the longbows, because, I mean, they're a good unit generally in the late game, but against deadly elephants, I'm not so sure it's going to work in his favour here, puppypaw. And as time goes on, Beastie's economy is going to start to really rock and roll. And it is his army. Both players are reaching the 200 population supply. That could spell the beginning of both players moving out to fight. As a lot of the upgrades are coming in thick and fast for the English. Looking to get enclosures, get a bit of gold trickle in for the farms. Big one's going to be the man-at-arms because it's got a lot of them. I wonder if as soon as those elite, those man-at-arms become elite upgraded, whether puppypaw will decide to move on in. Be less than ideal to fight underneath the keep and a mangonel for good measure. The Beastie looking to be in no rush. Looks like he's just waiting to get population supply. Why not? Then move on out. Heck of a lot of elephants. War elephants as well as the tower elephants, the Sultan's tower elephants. Yeah, I've got to say, this is awkward, right? Because it still doesn't feel like there's an adequate counterplay here. It's got a couple of Wingard footmen, which does well against cavalry at +5. Do well against any Ghazi raiders, of which there are none actually now. Now the elephants are technically cavalry, so I'm kind of curious to see actually how the Wingard footmen do against them. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of them anyway. If you sprinkle in a couple more, maybe they can do a job against the elephants. Have to wait and see. That's a lot of elephants though. But look at the army value. More than double for the Delhi. The longbows just don't feel like they're going to cut it in this fight. The elephants deciding to just back away for now. Wants to wait for the mangonel to get them into picture, and it is about to. Some devastating damage to those man-at-arms. Those man-at-arms barely standing with the fight. And now if those longbows get exposed and longbows get hit by the mangonels, it will be curtains. Man-at-arms trying to get to the mangonels, but they really kind of can't. As more elephants come on out. Waddle about to come out with the... Oh no, this could be bad for puppypaw. One Waddle comes on in. It means those man-at-arms... Well, they're going to be dead anyway, mostly. It's down to 51 army. This is not looking good. And GG gets called. Puppypaw ends up having to tap out. The elephants are dominating Gorge with the Delhi Sultanate. Beastie takes the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care. And see you next time.